It's not easy to learn how to solo. I've worked with a number of students who are struggling with soloing fundamentals. Most of them fall into one of two camps. In the first camp are the people who don't know their scales. When it's their turn to solo, they play random notes. This is tough for the listener to process, since the notes in the solo are not related to the song being played. In the second camp are people who lean heavily on scales. Someone who is learning to solo over the Watermelon Man changes could determine that they should use the F Mixolydian scale and then use it for the entire song like this. This is better than the random approach, but it can sound mechanical and meandering. It sounds like the soloist is playing scales instead of composing an intentional melody. An approach that works for me is to lean on chord tones. Watermelon Man is a great song for learning how to solo since there are only 3 chords. So what are the chord tones in Watermelon Man? The chord tones of the F7 chord are F, A, C, and E flat. These are the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and flat 7 of the F major scale. The chord tones of B flat 7 are B flat, D, F, and A flat. And similarly, the chord tones in C7 are C, E, G, and B flat. If you look at Watermelon Man through this lens, you notice how heavily the melody emphasizes the chord tones. Chord tones create a melody that sounds like it fits, as opposed to sounding dissonant. The first note in Watermelon Man is E flat. E flat is a chord tone in the F7 chord. After that, the melody plays this. So we'll see F and C, which are both chord tones in the F7 chord, and then D is used as a passing tone, so you end up with. Then we move on to B flat 7, where F, the first note in measure 5, is a chord tone in B flat 7, as are F and D, with C as a passing tone to the D note. Playing a tasty solo isn't very different from composing. Just like a composer emphasizes chord tones in the melody, a soloist will do the same thing in order to play a solo that sounds like it fits with the song. When you have the chord tones down, you can play a completely legit solo by using only those notes. The next step is to add passing tones between the chord tones. This smooths out the melody of the solo and allows you to pass between chord tones more gracefully. In the next example, I'm going to focus on the chord tones, but also add a few notes from our tonal center. The tonal center is the key that the song is in. We think of Watermelon Man as being in the key of F, but since it's a blues, we flat the 7, so E natural becomes E flat. As a result, our tonal center, or foundational scale, is actually F Mixolydian, or we can also think of it as B flat major starting on the note F. When we play the F Mixolydian scale, it looks just like the F major scale, except with an E flat instead of E. Now I'm going to construct a solo that emphasizes the chord tones and uses passing tones from the F Mixolydian scale to transition between the chord tones. final thought I'd like to leave you with is that soloing does not have to be spontaneous. You eventually want to be able to play a solo on the spot, but in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with writing out your solo. It's not like the audience will know that your solo was written in advance. And then as you develop your skills, you'll get better at improvising on the spot, following chord changes, and playing chord tones and passing tones. I hope that this video helped demystify some of the fundamentals of soloing. If soloing sounds challenging to you, don't worry. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Find ways to limit your options in the short term, and then expand your tonal palette when you're ready. I encourage everyone to keep developing their skills, being creative, and taking their music to the next level.